Hey, thank you for joining us on PlanetSide 2 Work in Progress Hassan Edition. We're going to be taking a look today at one of the bases that's going to be redone on Hassan. Don't believe this one's going to be making this month's patch, but it should be ready for next month's. So without any further ado, let's jump in and kind of see what's going on here. So this base that I'm working on used to be ORM Scrap and Salvage, one of the tinier bases on Hassan. Kind of a hard place to hold a fight right now, given the scale of our game and how many players are, at a particular base at any given time. So, knock up the bubble size there a little bit. So let's take a little tour around the area really quick so we can kind of see what's going on with it. Made some minor changes to the area that aren't really base related. And so I'll show you some of this stuff. So over here, I forget what base this is. Probably check it out really quick if I check one of the banners. Gannon. Okay, so this ORM Scrap and Salvage is over by Gannon, and between Holodyne, or excuse me, Genydyne Holographics over here, base that I worked on a few months ago on Work in Progress. So some of the changes that I've made to the areas that aren't necessarily ORM Scrap and Salvage is that I have changed the mesas over here to make them a lot smaller, so they're not so high up and dominating kind of your skyline. And the most important part for gameplay wise is that I have actually taken this mountain pass over here and really opened it up. If you look at it on live, you'll see that this is really super narrow, and on internally over here what I'm working on is this base is much more forgiving for like armor columns and stuff moving through here. So you can easily put, right now with the width of this canyon I've created, you can put 4 vanguards through it, where previously you'd be really trying to jam 2 in there without any actually getting in there. So that's a big one to kind of make sure that fights flow from, once the whole Gannon fight's over. This is Gannon Northwest, I believe, and once the fight progresses over here, that there's some combat that's actually going on in this area. It's important to kind of make sure that that mountain pass isn't too narrow. A little bit overzealous with kind of like occlusion and stuff like that to make sure the performance is running better, but we didn't have to go that far with it as we did, so that's why I've widened that a bit. Over here, there used to be one super windy road that kind of like snaked around and then went over here, and then you can kind of see the remains of this road that I've covered up with grass through here that I haven't fixed the terrain or the vertex painting, so you can kind of see the road still snaking through here. And there's a little road that kind of went off into the pond over here, but I've decided to put a bridge over that as something that's a little bit more interesting to play in. So those are some of the changes over there. Additionally, I've done some optimization on the terrain itself. So if you put this up here, the areas that I've touched are pretty obvious at this point. If you look at this, so these 6 squares over here, referred to as chunks in game, are a lot less red than they used to be. If you can see the stuff that I haven't touched over here, these are bright red. We'll eventually get to pulling out more and more of these, but basically if you're within these chunks now, you're going to be running maybe a few frames extra just because of the terrain that we've decided to optimize. And over here by Genydyne Holographics, There's a road that connected to this construction site base that was not there before. So this road over here, you can kind of see, just follows the chunk line, and I can't touch this side of it, but I can touch this side that it kind of fades into the chaos over here. It goes this road that takes you over to the Genuine holographics. So that's I think all the changes that I've made for this area. My particular goals for this base, ORM scrap and salvage, was to increase the size of it, so it has a higher carrying capacity, which is an important factor in any given base. We've got large outposts, small outposts, but just because a large outpost goes to a small outpost doesn't necessarily mean that the population will scale accordingly. So it's important that bases are kind of a minimum size to foster those sort of fights. In ORM scrap and salvage's particular case, the original area that you would fight in was right here. This really narrow sliver of what was expected of, a fight that just came off of Ganon over here goes to this, and it's just a bunch of people crammed into a tiny base. So that's why we're extending the size of this one. So we're hoping to go from this to something more like this. In addition to that, I'm also working on the battlefields between the bases. So Genuine holographics is over here, and you've got the big open field over here that you're going to have fights. I mean, this isn't going to be open, granted. This is all going to have stuff on it. I've kind of hashed out where I want the roads to be. As you can see, I've got one road going over here to hook up into the Sunder garage. I got a road going over here, so it's an alternate route, and I've got another one over here, which is kind of a low road for flanking, as well as one that kind of just dips down into the swamp over here, so you can come up from this way as well. So this will hopefully foster a bunch of interesting fights between these bases. This is definitely a bit more focused over here, coming from Ganon over to RM, because it's got this really narrow canyon that you're going to go through. I've been considering whether or not I want to have a very narrow pass that kind of comes around here and loops around through, just so it's a alternate flanking route. That way, it's important to make sure that not only you've got a front over here, but you've also got people dedicated to watching this, or even pushing through here to kind of make your push towards Ganon if you're attacking, or if you're attacking out of ORM scrap and salvage. So that said, those are the intended things I'm looking to do with this new base revamp. I've got the groundwork kind of laid down for where things are going to go, but as to what is going on here right now, it's all very still up in the air. So right now I have 100 meter sticks kind of pointing from the center of this barracks building, which I've retooled a little bit. The old barracks building hadn't been touched in a long time, so what I wanted to do was kind of direct it a little bit. Most of our spawn rooms are kind of in the back of a base, and you progress forwards towards the cap point, and then from that you kind of progress towards the attacker point where they kind of have their sunders and stuff like that. So this particular barracks room has been modified so that you are on the first floor going down, and you kind of go out, and you can go out from from directly from there, from out of here, and you'll push towards the center where the cap area is going to be, right over here. I'd like to be able to get this building to be a little bit more modified so that it's got like a door over here as well, or maybe a big bay door over here, so that it's really directed in one direction, with the options of if you need to go out the sides or you need to go up the roof or the back, those are still there. But those are my kind of intended things with this base right now. I've been looking to make this a terraforming base as kind of its theme. The salvage theme wasn't really too well kind of done environmentally wise in this base prior, and I want to have something that's a little bit more kind of concrete with its theme. So I've been thinking about going with a terraforming base for this one. We've got the Genesis terraforming plant over in the over eastern of Ixtab, but It doesn't hurt to have another one, especially since Hassan was supposed to be the kind of like where terraforming was, most of that was taking place in the game story. So yeah, that's that. So it's time to get started on this and kind of go with there. So yeah, definitely terraforming, and I kind of want to give it a garden-y look to it as well, just to kind of really sell that. The other terraforming plant is very, what do you call it? Very man-made. A lot of the props in it are, smokestacky and stuff like that, and I kind of want to have something that's a little bit intertwined between those two, the gardens and the smokestacks and stuff that's supposed to, inject the chemicals into the air and everything like that to make it possible for life to be here. So that is where I'm going with this. So we should probably get started on that. So you can see I've got a lot of stuff floating around here. Like I've got the old antenna piece and the old ammo tower for vehicles sitting here, just so I don't have to redo the data for those. So I'm just going to stick this guy over here, which is probably all that not of a bad spot for it. I'm expecting the vehicle bay to kind of be over here somewhere in this middle meter stick sticking out here. The two hookup points for attackers I've intended to be on this side, facing Genudyne Holographics and Ganon Northwest over here. There's going to be a road that comes through here, kind of sweeps through. Vehicles are going to spew out of this thing when defenders are actually able to get there, even though they've got a bit of a hike to do so. I may not actually have this be out 200 meters from the spawn room, which is kind of not really in our best interest as all designers, because it's kind of boring to walk that far when your goal is to go get a vehicle to get out of here faster. So we'll probably shrink that a bit, but I don't want it to encroach on the cap point area too much. And there's always like, well, should I just have the road spew over here? I can have it kind of fade out towards, or kind of filter out towards Genudyne. Yeah, maybe that's a better way to do it. So if I've got the vehicle terminal over here, I got a road going out this way, and it can kind of just loop around over here. This is a small outpost, so it's not too disruptive if you let that happen. The most dangerous vehicle you can pull out of a vehicle terminal, a small outpost, is going to be the Lightning, which an AP Lightning will definitely do damage to a Park Sunder, but not enough that a coordinated squad can't take out immediately. Craftman asking what editor this is. This is our internal level design tool called Terrain Editor. It's a Sony Online Entertainment developed piece of software for our Forge Light engine. But yeah, I've had a bit of designer's block with this one of how exactly this thing is going to flow. The vehicle bay has kind of been what's been dragging me down right now with this, of whether it's going to be over here and loop around this way, or whether it's going to come out of here and you're going to have to walk way far across to be able to get that. It's going to be up a little bit elevated. As you can see, I've got a pretty good hill that you'd have to walk up as infantry to get there. But yes, very much in flux right now of what I want to do with it. So I better get started with this to kind of really lay down the foundation for it. So I'm going to start placing my platforms for this thing. I want the spawn room to be up on you'll see this pattern on a lot of my bases. I like the spawn room to be elevated up so that they've got the height advantage if they're trying to be camped. I like the barracks building a lot, even though it's got a way bigger footprint than the other smaller spawn room. And that's almost exclusively for the reason of, so you can see our usual spawn room that we use for things versus the barracks building. You can probably fit like 2 of these inside the big one. So I like the bigger spawn room just because it's a little bit harder to camp. If you are in a lousy position where your guys are being camped at, you can still fire back from up here, and you've got enough cover to be able to kind of repel them at least, even if you're going to lose. So Alright, so let's start getting the platforms placed and put down on this. Make sure that we've got our 4x4 platform here. Sure, we're going to need everything else basically for our palette of objects, essentially. If I can type. There we go. So I'm going to use the mining stairs for that as well. Another fixture in any of our bases, really. And there's a lot of people in chat asking about like release dates and stuff. It's not really, nothing like that is going to get announced or answered on the stream, unfortunately. All right, pull that over. So yeah, still unsure of what I want to do with the vehicle spawner. I'm just going to put that terminal over there because I don't really need to worry about it right now. Important to get the spawner as kind of a starting point is always a good way to go about that, because it kind of sets the stage of where the rest of the base is going to be. 45 onto that, and I'm going to bring the stairs down to the other height of the other things so I can just kind of snap those together. Same thing with this piece. And now I can just turn snap to on and go, except it's set to 10. Sarah and I can do that with it. In addition to this, I want to make it so that there's cover and stuff that the defenders can use to shield themselves from bullets. So I'm going to put some walls down as well. Same thing with this one. So these are going to get sunk into the ground. I like the underside of the walls as opposed to the top of it. Top has kind of this thing on here, which is useful if you're going to be using just fences to kind of snap on the edge of it. But if you're using it as an actual wall itself, I like using the flat underside. And same thing, I like this to be the outward facing one. And same thing when it comes to the columns for this thing. Take that and flip that, and the underside of it is definitely a better fit for these as well, because it tapers down on that side, so you can shrink it a bit. Use it to cap off the edges of these otherwise unsightly edges. So now, in your base, kind of the idea here is that you're going to get a slight height advantage over everybody else over here trying to shoot at you when you leave the spawn room. I mean, obviously, but the best you get is up here, but the downside is that you can't get back down once you come up. So yeah, that kind of the one of the things too to kind of keep in mind is the overall height of the base and how high it's going to be and everything like that. So we're looking at it now. It's like, well, where's the height stand on this thing? Because it's kind of like lumpy now that I'm looking at it. Kind of starts off in a ditch over here in the corner and goes up and then drops right back down when it goes to the road. So we want to make sure that this back part over here is a bit raised. Which I have done far too much of, maybe. No. See, here's the thing where I'm looking at. So it's like let's take this, cap it to up. I know that it's 51 meters over here, I guess. I pulled over here, bumps right back up to that. So there's only a temporary kind of downward over here. It goes back up at the edge, and it's lowest over here, actually. So I'm going to take this hill brush, hide the objects, and then kind of just raise it back up here. I don't know what I did. So there we go. Let's bring back our hill tool, or our elevation tool out. So yeah, we run into the same problem over here. It's just not too high, or it's not high enough, rather. Let's keep our stump there so we don't have to guess as to where this height's going to be. Hide our meter sticks as well because they are distracting. So I think we're in better shape over on this side now. Alright, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to smooth these out. So there's that. Gotta finish the platform for it. Gotta make sure. So now we can probably bring down the overall height of this. Let's see over here where it's like at 47. So I can drag this over. There's no reason for it to be so high over here. Man, that's even digging to the road. I think I got some road work and ditch digging to do before I start over here. How far is this? Yeah, so this is all 48. It kind of goes to like 51 over here, but otherwise I know that I'm going to have to bring down this road area a little bit. So it's going to be a little pit kind of here where I'm going to have some of the combat when it leads in from Ganon. So let's start finishing up this platform. I lost my wall. Something's up with Terrain Editor today, and I think it might be the chunk bubble that I have. So I'm going to lower this to 6 and see how that goes. So right now only the immediate area kind of conserves this, so. Check my preferences, something's up with this. So there we go, 3 minutes later, and we've finally moved this piece of wall over to where it should be. Same thing with the stairs that we're going to move over here. Or not, because the angle on these things is apparently all off. That's something. So the angle on these was 1 degree off, which is why you ended up with that gap over there. It was an accidental edges over here. I'm going to make this a 2 stair going down. Put my dummies down. Sorry. Yep. So there we go. We're trying to make this a, well, that you can kind of crouch behind if you need to. So I'm going to see what the since we know this is going to be kind of a, just using as an end cap, we can shrink it a bit so that it'll look better when it's kind of flush against these. Because the height difference, even this doesn't look like a big deal. It's definitely a little high. So bring that down there, and then we can raise both the walls up. So we're able to shoot over them and crouch over them as well. There. So there we go. That's what I wanted to do with that. I'm going to end cap this over here. And I'm going to count and make sure that these stupid tiles are all... So this thing is 8 or 9 tiles, 9.5 tiles wide. I have to put another 2x2 on the edge of this thing so it kind of looks a little bit symmetrical. So I'm going to take the 2x2. Not that one. That's not what it's named. It's the quad. There we go. Copy the rotation over, and I'm going to start copying over the translate for these and move it over. Not really sure what's up with Terrain Editor Day. Keep skipping when I'm trying to use Snap to Grid on this machine. It's probably because this machine sucks. Alright, same thing. So I'm going to hide the group for this temporarily. And I'm going to finish the platform so I can put this stuff under it. Or not. You know, the computer does what it wants. And over here, I'm going to taper off the edge and kind of like bevel it into the wall. So I'm going to get my single mining platform over here, rotate it, copy the translate. Really not feeling this machine today. Alright, Alright, so now that I got my edge piece over here, I'm going to move this over, rotate it, slide it in over there, and I'm going to kind of continue this pattern into the wall. Same thing with the other side, now that it's part of the grid. So start filling in the pieces here. I'm going to use these varying sizes of platforms for performance reasons. It's too expensive to make everything with just individual pieces like that. It's like, obviously I can make this entire platform out of these if I wanted to, but it saves time on my end and it also saves time on your computer if we're using 4x4s and 2x2s and some kind of combination of them. Downside of using all 4x4s obviously is that you can only make 4x4 squares with it, which when you're trying to get something that's a little bit more visually interesting with angles and stuff on it, you can't really do. So that's why I've got multiple types of or multiple sizes of platforms rather. So there we go, kind of created a bevel over here on the side. And I think this looks pretty nice. Just gotta finish it up on the other side as well. I've got that spare one piece over here. I'm going to move that over. And hopefully have this junction over with the other one without any ugly Z fighting or anything like that. Closing down Perforce, I doubt that thing's helping this thing run better. There we go, now it shouldn't Z-fight. So we've got our spawner and platform over here. Not really super pretty right now, but that's that. Continue working on the hookup points to the cap point, and then the attacker points after this. So I've got the mark of where I want the cap point to be, so I can get rid of the stuff. I don't need these meter sticks anymore. This needs to get flattened out over here. So I've got that. This is another one of those things too where, like I was saying, if I'm going to have the vehicle spawner be over here, I'll probably have another set of stairs come down over here. This is going to be kind of a pretty intimidating looking rock wall. This is going to be sealed up because I don't want people getting back here because I don't really care if they're back there. Well, I don't care about restricting their access back there. I definitely don't want them back there. And then I'll have the vehicle spawner maybe spit out here and kind of drive around, so. So there's that. I gotta figure out what we're gonna do with the rest of this, which is a pretty significant task. Yeah. So, what I'm looking at over here is that we're going to end up having, kind of wanted to have battlements go along this side, and that's, by battlements I mean there's a wall and there's kind of like a depressed area where you're going to be able to shoot stuff out of, you know, basically kind of at the road over here. Like a lot of this too is being able to illustrate these roads, which right now we just kind of got these like muddy runs going through here of what will be a road eventually, but yeah, this base has been kind of nagging at me for the past week or so. I know I've had it coming up. I know that I've wanted to do something with it, but I haven't really figured out exactly what's going on with it. So a lot of what's going on right now is a lot of improvising on air of trying to figure out how exactly this base is going to work out. It just has not been, that wouldn't be the first time that I've done that. A lot of the stuff I've done has been really improvised on the fly in the past, and you know, afterwards I'll come around and think about it a bit and totally understand what I need to do with it. But right now we need to basically to work on this attacker hookup point. We need to make sure that this this door is not buried in the ground. Same thing with this vehicle spur, excuse me, Sunder garage over here. Those are important things to make sure that are working before you get kind of any of the rest of the base put together. So I'm going to use the flatten tool rather than trying to like pull using terrain stuff. This is going to be a fair bit more efficient. This is one of those things. I've got this entrance here, this entrance over here where the Sunder's going to spawn, and I might as well put another one over here because otherwise people are just going to billy go over rocks and stuff that I put. It's kind of a wall. So you can put a stairwell that goes kind of across that. So this whole area is not just one choke point that you're looking at, but rather 3 of them. And I kind of want to do some of that over here with the same thing, is to make it sure that there's going to be a very obvious place where you're going to attack, but it's not so much a constant choke point. You're going to have multiple people watching multiple entrances over here if you want to successfully hold this base. Same thing when you're looking at, you know, I mean, the option of attacking, if, like I was saying, there's going to be a bypass route over here, where if all the combat's here preventing you from getting into the cap point, you can go around to drive over here and park Sunder over here for kind of a flank attack. Sir Kane's asking how harasser accessible this base is going to be, which is kind of, I've seen what you did to the ziggurat, dude. I'm pretty sure everything is harasser accessible for you. Sir Kane was showing off his exploit once, because I was floored that he was able to get into the ziggurat after I had put so much work to try and prevent him from getting into it. And some sort of magic with just squeezing into the Sunder garages at the right angle just managed to get through it. I was very upset when I saw that. So here we go. I'm going to start lowering this into the ground to kind of get a good height location for that. I'm just going to level brush the mud out of this room, turning off the collision tool so it doesn't chuck anymore for that. People arguing about the lore right now in the channel about which guys are the good guys. We tried to make all of them jerks and good guys at the same time, so. So there we go. Now this building M is all cleared of mud. I've got this side as well. I think I've got stairs over here still. Yeah, so I've got these stairs of what exactly is going to end up with, like, the, I don't know the way to put it. So I'm going to get, this is going to be the third entrance into this. So there's going to be a little pit sort of thing over here. So I got to clear this out too. So let's get our Sunder dummy to kind of cram into this garage and see where the clearance is. So I've got that, and spin that around. And we want to make sure that the guns clear it, as well as the, it's not cramped or anything like that. So we also got to make sure that the minimum is at these kind of lips that the, so I'm going to keep pulling over here. So there we go. So this is kind of what I was talking about with this pit over here. And I'm going to have two sets of stairs come up for that. So it's not one of the things kind of with the Sunder garages I'm not super happy with, is that you got this big wide open end, but you're always directed towards this, and that was kind of the way I had actually intended it to be built, obviously. But with this one, I want you to be able to have the option of going over here. This whole area over here may not necessarily be a road. Maybe we've got a fence over here, so this is a combat area too, not just a part of the road that you walk on to get over there. So right now what I'm making sure is that this stuff all kind of matches up with the height of how the platforms are going to be over here. So I might as well start placing that stuff down as well. So let's take a look at our platform. We're going to be using the reddish brown ones for this. So let's get our old pals over here again. The quad, the 4x4, and the regular square, and let's pull the edge out as well. This is the palette of which many of our bases are put together. So make sure, are these all at 45 degrees or what? Yep, 45. And this is also 45, so I can slide that in over here. And I've lost it under the mud. Lift it up. Bring this over. Trenches are cool. I really don't think this is the base for it, though. I don't really have any way to put it, especially if it's going to be like a terraforming base. The combat outside of the base, I think, is going to be a lot more fun, honestly, than the inside of it, just because this is such a wide open area to screw around with right now. I'm expecting, I don't want to just put the big blocker thing here where you have to go around it. I want this to kind of be permeable trees and stuff like that, where infantry can go through and they're going to be surrounded by vehicles, or vehicles are going to be on the road and stuff, and they can kind of come out of the trees and mess with them that way. I think there's trenches on Esamir. There used to be, at least. I don't play too much on Esamir. But we had a lot of trenches there, especially it was a knot, I believe, was really heavily based around like trench warfare sort of stuff. We got to get our walls over here too if we want to make this a successful stairway. So I'm going to bring this over and drag it over. Lost it already. Drag that over there. So hopefully, I think we've made a problem. So right now, as I bring this thing I brought over here, actually this one's properly calibrated for height. So I'm going to bring this over here, and we're going to see the problem of what is going on with this. So as I said earlier, it's important for the spawn room to have the height advantage, but as you can see, as I had already adjusted the height of, these platforms over here, the entrance area is actually higher than the back end of it. So that's probably going to be something I'll have to take a look at over here, of just lifting up this back spawn area a little bit, so that they've got the height advantage when it comes to like coming down the hill, essentially, to take the point back. So yeah, that's just a kind of an illustration of what I was talking about having to have the this part back here be the most elevated. So I need to bring that up a little bit, but I won't do that on stream because that is boring as hell to watch. Alright, so back to this wall over here that I brought over. It is set at 135, which is 2 notches away from 45, which hooks up with this. So I'm going to bring this over here. And now it's like, well, how do I want this to hook up with this sort of thing? Got this stuff over here. Am I just going to have one elongated platform and that's how it hooks up with things? Or do I want to move this out a little bit? I think for the sake of everyone out there that would be totally bothered by this, I'm going to make it so that it hooks up perfectly that way. I'm going to pull this out a little bit more. So there we go. Now this under garage is sticking out a bit, but the stairway that comes out of here hooks up directly with this platform stuff over here. So I'm going to continue putting that, make sure there's not really anything you can see down there. Going to hide it with a fence post. Trammell is driving on his way to South Carolina right now, I believe, for his new job. Maybe he felt something when I did this. He's never a fan of our jamming stuff together that was not meant to be. Disturbance in the force. So there we go. That's what I did with that. So I got this other stairway over here. I'm going to flip this around. Bring it back that way. Do that. Something over here. Bring this platform over. So bring this over. Now, using this single platform over here is probably not necessarily what I wanted, but we'll make the most out of it. Where's our edge? Just going to use our edge piece over here, flip it around to where I need it to be, and copy the translate over so it's in the platform grid. Click that over there, over there. So there we go. Now in this particular thing I can probably do something like put a lift or something over there to make that feel interesting. So I'm wondering, should I be using concrete for this? Should I be using these walls? There's a lot of questions like that. I was saying over here, this is going to be like kind of a battlement area that kind of fight stuff going on at the road. And I think I'm probably going to do this cut through over here. Hell, let's do it right now. Destroy mazes is probably more interesting than sliding platforms together, so you can see how the virtual ditch digging goes. So we go, cutting through this mountain, and I'm going to have a pass back here to where you kind of just drive and hook up with the main road again. Just a little loop-de-loop, basically. I don't want anyone getting up here because it would be irritating as hell to get it shot. A bunch of snipers are up there, so this is going to be narrow. Right now it's at 8, which I think is maybe like a, oops, undo that. So let's get our Vanguard dummy back here. Vanguard. For whatever reason, this prop doesn't like to get selected over here. I have to band select it. So as we can see, turning off snap to grid there, move it over. So I'm going to have this be a little bit bigger. It's fighting in these narrow passes isn't really fun in my opinion. But unfortunately it makes me do more work since I have to touch up the edges of all this stuff. So, c'est la vie. And then I got this big thing up here, which is pretty much, can't really get on top of. So it makes this kind of a bad angle to try and shoot things from, so I'll cut into this side a little bit more. Certain part of this is making this whole thing look attractive, and we'll get to that. So I'm going to pull the... Have this be a little bit elevated. I think that looks cool. So I'm going to take Hassan rock brush and just start undoing it over here. Make it a fancy texture brush as well. This is the one I use the most. So pulling the rock texture off this, I am pulling the paint off so that there is no rock under this to prep it for being a road. Same thing with the dirt texture that's under here, this lighter whitish texture. It's got a lot of vertex painting on this as well, which is going to have to get pulled off, but as you can see, even though I pulled the dirt texture off, there's still that white spot there, which is kind of part of the our third-party software that creates the actual height map for this, kind of puts that in there when it's making it, so I need to go and wipe over that so it's kind of more of a road vertex painting. This whole thing over here too has got to get like sculpted and made to look nice, so this is all going to be a long-term project. That's just a little bit more than just pulling the rock off is going to do. Mag Rider's the fattest tank, but it is not the hardest to get through a space that's too tight for it. The Vanguard and Prowler kind of grounded down like that. So the thing is I just throw the tank down there, and that's kind of like, I make sure there's plenty of wiggle room on either side too. I never want to have a position where it's like, okay, well this tank can go through, but that tank can't go through. It just kind of give it to scale, because if you don't have a tank prop over here and you're like, like I was saying, I can't select it. If you don't have a tank prop, it's hard to get the scale of things if there's nothing here. Like, how big this area is so difficult to kind of discern until you have something to scale there, that it's always good to just put something down, even if it's not like the biggest, for that, to make sure. When it comes to Sunders, which are absolutely the tallest vehicle, I always put them for under bridges and underpasses and stuff that they can go through, to make sure that the guns clear it, because if the guns don't clear it, they can sometimes shoot through it, or the guns just don't shoot well at all. Both of those are bad situations. So I'm taking the vertex coloring and pushing it through here so it's more consistent with the rest of the road, and I can go and, doll this up as it needs to be later. Push that through. So you can see, like, that change I just made right there. It's a big deal. So it held the green kind of bordering this patch of dirt, which made it look really nice. So same thing, I'm going to pull this dirt out. And same thing with this area. I want to see what the, how wide this is. And you can see this is not particularly wide. This one select better? Yeah, this one selects better. Is this thing stuck here now? What's going on? There we go. So I'm going to use this guy from here on out, the full black model. So you can see this is kind of a tight fit over here. So probably going to widen this out a bit by making this part of the road. So bring that up. Yeah, this has got a lot of pull down work left to do on it, because I don't want to have this narrow of a pass be all this stark. So start pulling down the edges over here, which is going to get smoothed out at the bottom. This mesa kind of looks goofy when it's sitting by itself and it's so high like that, so I'm chopping it off. That's what's happening. Take that. There we go. Oops. Pull that like that, and this thing is going to get shrunk down too. there we go. I've modified this mesa as I please, so it doesn't look so stupid being up by itself. For those of you just joining us, this base is ORM Scrap and Salvage. I was talking about it earlier. Kind of deemed it too small to really hold a decent fight in our game, so I've decided to expand on it a bit. Yeah, that's basically how this has been going. This whole base kind of fit in this one strip before, right over here. Works a little bit, probably about 3 times the size. And the surrounding battlefields will definitely support a much bigger fight as a result too. And people talk about like these mesas being like these big tactical points that I never end up seeing be actually go through in game. Like I don't think many Lancer squads are going to be up here because I don't think it's that effective to set up that coordination where you can just have tanks on the ground. So part of this too is looking at the top of this and going, okay, well we got to fix the vertex painting for this. So we've got all this green that's kind of now not really part of that. So I'm going to take the green color and I'm going to tap it around this over here. Same thing with removing it. So take that and move that over there. And we've got this kind of tan color that's used for these like fingers of erosion that we have coming out here. So I'm going to move that down a little bit and go along with the coloring for that. Yeah, Treadstone mentioned that. I've seen like EXE use the Mesa tactics a ways back, but I haven't seen that in a while. But yeah, that's my experience on Connery at least. I don't see a bunch of people setting up on Mesa so much. With this, you got to sculpt this mountain a little bit more, just moving that down, so you got to get the erosion lines in there. So I think that looks a lot better than it did before. Probably gonna have to bring this down a little bit so you can't use this as a ramp to get up there. This road's gonna have to get smoothed out a little bit too, so. There you go. I think that looks alright. Can set a road down on this later. It's wide enough. It's like 10 meters wide. Realistically, I mean, if you wanted to get serious about it, it's probably like 15, but you can't drive on the edges there. Jackson, I've had at this point in my career, I've had a, let's see here, I don't know, probably like 6,000 or so hours on Terrain Editor, so I've gotten pretty good at like doing stuff fast like that. When I started, this probably would have taken me all day. There's your tunnel. Alright, so we've got this road over here now with the gimme tunnel I just gave you guys. Alright, so I better start getting these roads here. It's difficult to kind of... One of the roughest things that I learned with like the level design stuff when I was starting, well, not starting actually, this isn't all that long ago of a revelation, is to make sure that you don't have stuff sitting in the scene that sits there and affects your perception of what this is going to be, and that can even mean stuff that's not in the scene that's going to affect your progression of what it's going to be. So what we have here is a lack of roads, and we know there's going to be roads in here, so we might as well start painting them in. Especially now that we've got some support on the terrain editor that actually allows us to not have to worry about painting stuff in certain orders and stuff like that. So you can kind of like pull the texture from under something or pull it on top of it and won't have to worry about it. We didn't have that until like a few months ago, so I can start painting this road in. So the way I'm going to do this road is that I'm going to use this 4-dot texture for the tire tracks to kind of give the illusion that there's a lot of like tires going over this, and I'm going to kind of fill it in a bit with a more flatter, more broad brush to kind of give the space in between them some definition while keeping the tire tracks the most important part. So over here we've got some geo that needs to get polished up a little bit before we can get the tire tracks in here. So this is going to be the most narrow part, and maybe like 8 meters of actual driving space. So let me wipe that out really quick. There we go. Treadstone level design. Treadstone asks, is level design my primary, or do you have other roles to look, or do you look to have other roles later in your career? I mean, you can make an entire career off of level design if you want to. It's probably one of the most portable disciplines in design, is to be able to do levels, because especially it really depends on the FPS. I mean, PlanetSide is designing levels for this is unique, as opposed to like probably any other FPS that you're going to be designing for, just because of the way our spawns work, our objectives, the way that you attack a base using like mobile spawn points as opposed to a random spawn point. So the level design in PlanetSide is pretty unique, but you can apply that to other games, and you can apply other games to this one. It's one of the more portable disciplines in design, though. I never made surf maps for Counter-Strike or TF2. I don't know if I'm allowed to mention that on air. I'm sorry. Surf maps were always a wildly... I never got the drive behind them. I played them when they first came out, and they found kind of that bug in that engine where it's just like, okay, you press in the direction of the wall, and then you keep sliding forward. But they were never more than like a one-off gimmick to me. Yeah, I also wasn't very good at it, which is probably a big reason why I wasn't that interested in it. But actually, before I paint that road hook up there, I want to make sure I know where this thing is going. So this one's probably going to be the, make this smaller. This is more of a narrow mountain road, so I don't want to have the brush on that so big. Crank that up 50% so it's not so slow. So I have this road kind of filter out over here. I don't want this to be like a loop that players end up taking when they come from here to go around that way, because going in that direction is not what I intended at all. Okay, so same thing with this main road over here, is I'm going to have this road continue this way. So there we go, we've got a connection for that other road over there. And we know we've got this road down here, so continue this way. So I cut a road from the vertex paint. You can see there used to be this one continuous thing over here, so I'm going to keep the road going through this. It's still a big road, it's still 9 meters wide, so that's like 2 vanguards that you can comfortably fit there. You're going to have that and the berms on the edge of the road, so just keeping that over there. This over here. Continuing the roads. Get back on the base once we got the framework here for these put together. I don't like to do that in there. So there we go. We got some ugly hashed in roads really quick for kind of frame what's going on with this base. So now you can see the dimensions of this base a little bit better, of where it's going to be. Like I said before, it used to be in this one little sliver over here. It used to be the entirety of ORM scrap and salvage. Actually came to like here, so it was even smaller than what I was indicating before. And now it's going to kind of be this big, so we're looking at like a, I don't know, 4 times the size pretty much. Yes, this also doubles as a circular racetrack if you're particularly bored. So yeah, it's like this area over here is probably going to be all foresty. It's not going to be part of the main road going in, but it's going to be fun to attack out of. You won't have necessarily battlements over here. You'll probably just be seeing the tops of trees if vehicles are coming from this direction towards you. So you can kind of put some temp trees in over here. Those are tree roots. That's kind of where I'll expect some trees to be. So I've put some temporary ones there. Same thing with this area over here. Bunch of ugly temp trees. They're ugly particularly because 1, they're not really sunk into the ground, so you've kind of got just plopped on there. 2, they're all same rotation and scale. You can instantly make these things look a bit more interesting if you start doing stuff like that. Looks way more interesting immediately. So that's kind of one of the little tricks too, is not just put a bunch of samey looking objects next to each other. You want to have interesting stuff to kind of lead your eye places. Alright, so let's start working, or let's continue working rather, on the outside framework of this base. So we've got part of the attacker point for where you're going to be coming from Ganon, and we've got a very, very rough, not complete or final at all from where you're coming from Genudyne Holographics. So there's that. So let's continue with this. This is rough. So like I said, still don't know exactly what's going on with the whole of the space that I'm going to be really happy with, so I'm kind of playing a lot of this by ear. We do have some of the stuff. I mean, we've got a lot of the important stuff kind of like, okay, well, now we know where this is going to be, where that's going to be. This one especially is important just because we know that this is kind of the centerpiece of the base where the cap point's going to be. So we've got that taken care of, and we know how far it is to get to where the sunder points are going to be, as illustrated by these meter sticks, and as well as the distance that we have deleted the meter sticks, but how far it is to get to the spawn room. So we're playing it by ear, but we've got a good idea of where it's going to go. So I don't want this part of, I don't want too many platforms extending kind of into the to the base itself. So I'm going to make this kind of just taper off really quick. It's going to be like mud and dirt over there. I'm going to move this and keep this going over this way. So I've got that. So I need to bring up the minimum terrain for this part to be up to snuff with the rest of it. What I'm going to do is use the raise even tool, get this little there, and I'm going to use a flat brush, copy this height over to the rest of it, so now we know where the base of this level is going to be. So I've got this big, well, not that big, it's only a few meters high, but this is going to be a hard wall going across here rather than something you can walk up. The red domes are just areas. This is like an effects area saying don't play FX within shooting here, and that includes like stuff like smoke and things like that, so it doesn't go through the building. Yeah. Right now I'm trying to figure out the rest of the frame, so what I'm trying to think in my head of what this is going to be is the areas between these two things. Because I'm going to have basically an edge of this that needs to be formed up, and I'm not sure what I want to do with that yet. But I got to figure that out probably pretty quickly. It's kind of important to the rest of the base to know what the edges will be like. And maybe they won't really match up with this part. Maybe it's going to be something that Tristan, I think I'm more likely to fix subterranean nanite analysis than keep it in that state. So what I'm looking at right now is, and I think I just don't have the props for it, is a big junction piece to make sure that this goes another 45 degrees kind of this way. So what I think I'm going to do, let's bring this over here. Alright, this is a lot of improvising on this stream right now, so we're still figuring out what needs to get done. I'm saying subterranean nanite analysis could probably use another another entrance or two from floor 1, B1 to B2. There's only so much lobbing grenades with 200 other people can be entertaining for that long, you know? So we got that. So we don't really have, I think, the props for this. Oh, there we go, this guy. So this is the 45-degree angle maker piece, basically. But it's a little bit flawed in the sense that it doesn't really match up when you're trying to do multiple things at once. Or multiple platforms at once, rather. So maybe this will be the battlement that I was talking about earlier. Yeah, that's my take on it too, Vonic. The interior is pretty rad, but too many bottlenecks. Subterranean nanite analysis is a good example of carrying capacity, which is the reason why this base is getting redone. And that it doesn't have high enough of it for a game where the numbers of fights can really take place. And that's kind of one of my reasons why I'd like to redo anything on that, is almost entirely based on carrying capacity. So now at this, you can kind of have a hard wall, so get rid of that so I can kind of explain what's going on with this. So we get a 2x2 over here and pull this over. Scarred Mace is another one that needs some work, and it's like I said, it's almost entirely carrying capacity. The concept of it is pretty fun, but not when there's 200 people there. These stairs are sticking into the platform. I'd rather have them stick on the ground floor. DPO stands for Developer Placed Object, which is a very vague term, but within the context of our company, it almost entirely means like an NPC that's not an NPC, as in not a character. A DPO might be a capture point or a vehicle terminal or something that's not a human. I think that term kind of originated, I don't know. The term and the way we used it, I remember, was always used when I was testing free roams, but... So this is kind of how I want these battlements to go, is you've got this lower level from the elevated level over here, and you're going to have your kind of... This area out in front of you is basically your firing range for vehicles, so... Let's start the groundwork for that. Do this. Now I'm looking at this going, well, how high is this? And what sort of protection can a infantryman on this platform go? So I'm going to get a dummy. Put him next to this. So they've got plenty of room. Can't jump up this, but you'll be able to shoot down from it pretty safely. But this exposes the ugliness of this over here, so I have to take care of that too. Got a lot of things to think about when doing kind of like complicated elevation stuff like this. So what I do is get the concrete blocks out, because I want to have that kind of play with the walls as well. You're going to have two different types of supports under these things. So let's get our wall supports out. What do we got here? It's good. I like 10. Nine's cool. That one's cool. This might be good. Just the busted one with the bad LOD. One of these is open on the side when you get far away enough from it. It doesn't look good. You have to fix it. There, I'm going to use 10. This is the concrete block. I'm going to slide onto these platforms to give it support, or to make it look like it needs support. Technically, any object can float in the middle of the air, as you well know, so it's not necessary, but... Yep. Drag that over. So here is a long run of what you can expect out of this particular wall is that. So we're going to have this kind of run over here of a bunch of this stuff. And I'll start propping that up with like cover and stuff like that. Now I need to do some math here. So this thing is on a 45-degree angle, and I need to make this 45 divided by 2 is 22.5 plus... I'm going to get a calculator out because this is embarrassing. 135, 157.5. So we'll try 57.5. And that's the one. Basically, I was trying to get this angle to be flush with the rest of this over here. That's why I had to do the math to get the number between that of what it needs to be in the editor. Technically, I could have just set the snap to 22.5 and just rotated it once, but nothing like making it more complicated, you know. So there we go. This is our support for this little area over here, and I'm going to put a concrete block under the cinder garage as well, so that you don't see this ugly side with all the jagged terrain under it. Unfortunately, on 45-degree angles, which is what a lot of this base is built on, the terrain doesn't really look so nice when you're trying to do sharp edges with it, which is something that you can do if you're using only 90-degree angles. So, you know, that'll temporarily fix that over there. But we've got a lot of this area over here to kind of just continue along with that, and I know that it's not going to get used as much as I'm thinking. So I don't want this to continue on for a very long time. I kind of want this to be part of the base of places that you're going to see a lot more fighting. And while I want to make sure that fighting will happen at this part, I know that it's going to be condensed over here and over here, and then when you're actually the actual fight, it's going to be all over in the center, kind of based on if you're attacking from this one, the fight's going to be there. If you're attacking from over here, it's going to be there, kind of encompassing the spawn, cap, and the attacker area. So there's a lot of stuff like that to think about doing this. It's like, yeah, I can make this continue around the whole way around. But are we getting our bang out of our buck for it? Is it just, honestly, is it going to look good? Is it going to look better if we just have a bunch of natural stuff? I've kind of got this cliff over here, and I know that you're able to walk up it, which is kind of a flaw in you know, the angle that we have players be able to walk up. It's 51 degrees, which is a very steep angle. To kind of give you a example of how steep 51 degrees is when you're So this is how steep your character is able to walk up any given angle. So if you want to jam this into the side of the that's being a pain, whatever. I think this will work. Nope. Alright, I'm giving up on that. I'm giving up on this illustration. Basically, the terrain is a lot easier to walk up than the side of a man-made object, so yeah. That's one of the reasons why I like using man-made objects as walls as opposed to using walls from natural stuff, just because it's so much more reliable to know when a player's not going to be able to get up a wall or not. And I'm going to continue this over for a little while before I decide to stop it and bring it to mold into natural terrain, which might be not all that far off. Treadstone asks, is the editor getting any improvements from PS4 integration? And that is a no, because there's nothing changing for the editor for PS4. Anything that I do in this is going to gets exported, and it gets exported to work with both PS4 and PC. You can climb fences if you're a bad person, Sir Kane. That's how you know you can climb the fences. You're ruining my vision. So I think this is a good place to stop. On this side. Maybe one more. So yeah, this is a big battlement, but honestly I don't even think the end of this is going to be used. So I'm going to just meld this into terrain, basically. Copy these over, and these are kind of a pain because they're not necessarily 10 meters each, so I have to sit here and adjust these every time. There we go. Vonic, there's stuff that we're going to be getting that's new for building stuff soon. Some kind of changes in the way we're doing things is going to allow us to be able to request stuff out of artists if we need them. It's not going to be night and day, and we're not going to have like 50 objects overnight, or 50 new buildings overnight, but we'll be getting new ones soon. Especially like the that new dome that I showed you guys that is not announced for what it's being used for just yet. We're going to be, that's all white boxed, which is a fancy term for creating stuff out of planes, and that's going to be using a new building that's going to be created using the existing texture set that we have, but with new geo. We can use that anywhere else in the world once we deem acceptable. Let's get this over here. It's a little bit slower on this computer to do things than it is on the one in the office that I work in. It's a little choppier over here, and it's been a little unreliable today, so I apologize. Action Cactus is asking of, will the old continents be updated with these new objects? That's generally the case of any time we do revamps, is that we try to bring in some of the new stuff so that, you know, the entirety of Indar is not just all old and using the same props. I've had sitting on my machine the kind of checkout for a, I'm uncovering an object here. It's a Vanguard. What was I saying? So that it's just, you know, we bring up the old continents, try to bring them up to standards of where we were, or where we are now, and that without spending too much time on it. Currently, as you guys saw, I think it was on a couple work in progresses ago, I was working on Indar, and I still have that saved on my machine, and I think I'm going to be working on that after this particular base is finished. There's other stuff I'd like to see done, like working on the northern part of Indar, of adding, you know, more cover and stuff like that. There's a lot of open spaces on northern Indar, and I don't intend on making less open space per se, but there definitely needs to be more cover for ground vehicles and infantry when it comes to like big props like rocks and the vents on like Northern Indar and stuff like that. Especially stuff like Sunder bays and stuff like that too. We didn't really design those bases with that in mind, and it definitely suffers as a result of that. So we're going to bring some rocks over here, kind of just start moving it into a, let's use that blocker piece. Let's see if we can squeeze this in somewhere. So I can flatten this a bit. I might be able to repurpose this for something it was not intended for, which is my favorite thing to do. Oh, look at this mistake. This isn't too bad. Treadstone, question, Broken Arch, level design roadmap. Broken Arch is one of the bases that I am least happy with that I've done. That one didn't get touched too much for when I did the Indar revamp about 2 years ago now, actually. Wow, time flies. I guess it was more like a year and a half, I guess. But I only got to put an extra bridge on it and kind of lifted it up some of the stuff. Like the spawn room to prevent it from being immediately shelled by vehicles, but that base is one of the ones that suffers from carrying capacity problems, as well as, you know, like that one's really dying for a teleporter and stuff as well. So yeah, Jethius85 mentioned, you know, Southeast Indar and Indar canyons everywhere would be bad, and that's absolutely not what I'm intending to do when I look at the northern part of Indar again. So yeah, what I need to do to hide this is probably do that with it, so you don't have all these bumps and stuff like that sticking through. But I want this to be definitely present. What I can do to kind of have this, excuse me, transition over is have this go up here, have the rocks here, so it kind of like melds together. Vonak, I believe we're going to be taking a look at biolabs sometime in the future, like this year future. We know what we need to do out of them. Personally, I would like to see the teleporter rooms removed out of the biolab, so it's more of a structured fight that goes into it. But that has a lot of, making a change like that has a lot of other things that need to change as well. You just can't pull the teleporter rooms out and go, okay, you know, work's done. You have to do stuff like make sure that the entrance points into the biolab, which is the ones that's up on top of the wings, is big enough and can accommodate as much people as there usually is at a biolab fight, so you're able to get the proper flow for everything there. And that's kind of one of the concerns with why pulling just the teleporter out of the biolabs and going, okay, work's done, is a problem, because you're definitely going to end up with some problems that need to be thought out ahead of time and solved before that. So personal opinion, Tioki Leet is asking, can we get the old crown back for the Indar 2.0 revamp? There's no plans for like any total Indar revamp. I'd like to make that loud and clear. It's kind of like individual changes when we can make it and we've got the time for that sort of thing, or if there's a particular problem area. In terms of the crown, the point that I would probably like to see changed to the one on the bridge that leads to Palisade, just because it's so far out of the way that it makes it not, it spreads out players too much. Where too large of a carrying capacity is the problem. You can see that at the crown now, I think, with point whatever it is on the Palisade bridge. But I think the bridge I think the point towards TI Alloys and the point on that smaller bridge south of the crown are fantastic. But it's that other point that I have an issue with. Otherwise, I'm pretty happy with the crown the way it is. So you can see I've got this big blocker piece that we use for the trees as kind of like a barrier to keep players out. It is not all that bad over here. So I kind of like this. It's ugly. We can work on it a bit, but I kind of like it. So that's when we kind of like meld this into this other rock over here as this gradual slope down goes this way. Yeah. Kind of liking how this is looking right now. Everything needs more fence posts, Arcane. You're absolutely right. So I'm going to have this fade down so it doesn't look so jarring. One of the tricks here is to just have this fade down to the rock. not using the road tracks brush, which is not going to get us very far. It's going to have this fade into rock, and I can green this up a little bit so it matches the green that's on this rock as opposed to this kind of like tannish looking color down here. So that's what this is all over here, is going to be this sort of rock stuff, but I still got to do that and kind of tamp down this dirt so it's harder to run up. I don't expect players to totally be thwarted by my lousy rock wall over here, but I want them to be at least irritated by trying to jump up it, so. Because that's not what you're supposed to do. There's that. One of the things is because I don't really like this moss texture being used the way it is I want to cover this up and not look at it anymore because it's ugly. Tile's a little too much to be used in such a wide swath like this, so make the artist happy and cover some of this up. That includes doing some of this and covered it up a little bit. There we go, look at that. So yeah, the moss texture is a little tiley for being used in that much space. You can definitely see this one bright spot repeated over and over and over, so we don't want to really draw attention to that. So we're hiding it under dirt. So there we go. So this is, you can see the framework of the space slowly evolving to what it is. Like before I was saying about having stuff that kind of, or not having stuff in your scene that's going to confuse you or make you think about the work you're doing differently. Adding this little strip over here has pretty much made the framework of where things are going to go in the space kind of like pop out almost immediately of like, okay, there's the outline of this edge of the space. So we're slowly working on getting that together. There's stuff here like I want to make sure that all these are kind of like a smoother transition over here, so I'm going to bring these up. There we go. And having like this area over here is probably just going to be pretty gardeny, and I might have more techy looking stuff over here because it's still supposed to be a terraforming plant. So Post for Mike is asking, can we have a tank poking out of the mud somewhere? Is there not a texture for it? We can definitely, I mean, the texture for that is there. It's already on the tank, unless we wanted it to look muddy, which we could probably do with a shader or something like that. We typically don't have like dead tanks and stuff sitting in the world because they're constructed from nanites, and like any vehicle in the game that you see blows up, it just kind of disappears. So if you had a broken tank on the road, it would just like deconstruct in 10 seconds. Necrosis is asking, are natural infantry tunnels possible? It's kind of that's something, man. We've got some ways that we handle occlusion in this game, and as a result of that, it's kind of difficult to do tunnels in the capacity that you're thinking of, at least. Or if there is, rather, we have to do some, we have to give up some stuff to be able to do that. And by give up, I mean like performance. So in an area, it might not run as well as a result of the fact that we decided to use a tunnel because the terrain that tunnel is under no longer occludes anything. Occlusion being the fancy term for if you're on the side of it and there's something between you and the other object that you're trying to look at, you can't see it. Since it's not rendered, you get a performance savings because you can't see that anymore, and it's just not drawn anymore. Amrish has a number of those tunnels, and they do work. It's just like I said, you've got to give up stuff for them, and you have to kind of plan the base around them, as well as knowing that, you know, it's not in a very intense area. I wouldn't put this, Steve-O, the way we decided to, or not the way we decided, the new occluder software that we have doesn't use occlusion planes anymore. It's kind of using a different way to calculate that stuff. It's really complicated, and I can't really speak with any authority of it, as I am a designer and not the guy implementing it. So I wish I could go into better detail about it, but I honestly don't know. As far as I know, nothing's changed on the tunnels front, though. Action Cactus, I do not have a command that lets me just jump into game from the terrain editor like that. I believe that's something that like Unreal Engine does have on us. We are using Umbra. It's a different version, however. It's using a complex system of cubes, and I wish I was joking. I always thought that minecart thing was pretty quaint treadstone, considering that we're using like railroad ties and tracks in the year 2800. So here we go. Just moving forward with trying to get this wall to actually be a wall, bringing up the geo so that it's just too steep to walk up, or too steep to walk up without doing a bunch of jumping. And at that point it's like, did I save any time going up this? So over here, I don't want to use the rocks anymore because I've got this stuff. That means it's man-made over here. So I'm going to revert back to the man-made stuff and kind of have this be kind of like a little cut in the wall, maybe some stairs, and then battlements. So copying these over here. Oh, I just got screwed by follow terrain and autosave, so. As you can see, there is a pretty significant height difference from this side of the base over here as this gradual slope goes down over and over and over. So we're going to have to move this down a bit. One of the good things about this natural terrain is that you don't have to sit around and measure heights and stairway height and stuff like that, because the natural terrain is a lot more flexible when it comes to like height variation and stuff like that. So rather than having to go, how many stairs do I move from this particular side of the man-made stuff so that I can make it flush with the other platforms I have over here, I'm just going to have a dirt ramp come down, and that's all I need to do for this. So I've dropped it 10 meters, and that is that. I don't have to worry about stairs or making sure that the platforms look good together. It just kind of clicks. My biggest concern right now is this M building that I'm trying to make be the hookup point for attackers coming from Genudyne Holographics. So I want to make sure that this goes down. So maybe this is going to be higher over here, and they're going to have stairs coming down, and then it comes down, and you've got stairs over here as well. So now I've got to worry about stairs again. I spoke too soon. Shuffle that 2 pieces over, move this up. And we got to get our angled piece in here too, so. This is our wedge piece that we can use to make stairs kind of be flush with the objects that they're going next to, so that is another important part of this construction. I don't like my stairs to be scaled 1 in this particular direction, so I put it to 0.8. 0.833 is actually the 5 meter size, so that it clicks like that. So I'm going to change that to 0.833. And I'm going to copy the translate over for for this prop so that it hooks up with the stairs. Flush. If you're asking why I'm not using this ramp instead of stairs, it's because this kind of is ugly. It's not really intended to be walked on. You can see the double texture in the center like that. It's not what we use these for. Nanites have rendered wheelchairs obsolete in the future. So right now I'm being really picky about the bevel that sticks out of this because I want to make sure it kind of matches what's going on over here. But I don't want to have any of this sticking out under it too, so yeah, it looks good. That kind of matches with that. Alright, so now I'm looking at this and it's still too high to have just one stair here. The second set of stairs, or good news is that we've got this over here, so I'm going to get rid of this blue bush thing and reset on that. I can get rid of this as well because I know this is where this under bay's got to be, so I can get rid of this meter stick as well. Alright. So I might have to put two of these things down here to kind of get the proper height variance that we need to be able to make this work. Easiest way to check this out is just copy one of these quads over here, bring the platform over, and drag it down. Just hide that or what? There we go. Alright, so I'm going to copy this over, see how it looks. So when you're lining up stairs like this, you have to make sure that only the top highlight there is visible. Otherwise it looks stupid. So even then, I think we're still a little bit short on the stairs, so we may have to have a third set go down. Or you know what? Let me see what's going on with this building here. This is on the ground level that we need. Maybe we just need to move this over so that we only have to use two sets of stairs. It seems like the smartest way to go about it. At this point, why bother with the tiny wedge when I could just make it way bigger? No, don't need to go that 2x in that direction. So I need to make 833, so that's 1.666. There we go. So there we go. I saved a prop, and also like the prop that we didn't have, which would be this basic square that I had to get crammed into there. So I'm going to take these 4 stair pieces and these 2 platform pieces and these 2 support pieces and move them down so that they are at the level that I want them to be in regards to, dang it, didn't select the support under it. And we're down to that level, and I'm going to bring this out so it's flush with that. do not know what a wisdom cube is. So we're continuing along over here. Alright, there we go. So yeah, you can see I've got some work to do setting up this ramp that's going to go up to kind of like lead you up to here. There's only so far that we can dig into, because then you start getting to this rock and then the aforementioned ugly moss texture that I don't want exposed. So you're probably going to see just kind of like a hill space over here with some trees and stuff on it. That's going to be a good place to be an infiltrator and kind of screw with people there. We're going to have some sort of like hookup points between this to go to the cap point here, so you can slowly see things coalescing. Where we were before today, when the stream started. We're actually kind of close to ending right now. Gotta wrap this up in the next few minutes. So when we started, we were doing a lot of work trying to figure out what we were going to do with the space, what needs to get done, and there's still obviously plenty of work that needs to get done on this actual base to be able to make it work the manner that we're expecting. But now we've got the framework for it, which is the important part, so that the rest of it's just kind of like, oh, okay, I know what I want to do with this. I just got to start filling it in now. And that's kind of where this is coming along. You can see the edges are built of where they need to be. The attacker points of how they're going to get up to actually fight in the base are all kind of set up now. So we're looking a lot better shape than we were when we first started, which was kind of a blank slate with some terrain work that I did around the area. And yeah, you can kind of see this going along now. So I've got like 3 more minutes before I gotta start saying goodbye to you guys. So wrapping up these, or taking these and jamming them into the autosave just got me. Deselected everything. So this is on the 90-degree angle, so I can actually use the nudge tool for this. There we go. Then continue out and do this. Like I said, this area is kind of be up in flux over here because I need to actually put the vehicle spawner this way. So So that's that. I think I'm going to wrap it up for today, so start with the goodbyes here. Alright, so thank you for joining us today on Work in Progress for PlanetSide 2, the Hassan edition. As you can see, we took ORM, scrap, and salvage and kind of went from a really blank canvas to really setting up the framework for what we're going to ultimately end up doing with the base. You can follow me here at Xander Klaus, and I will be posting screenshots of this thing as it, kind of comes into fruition as a fully featured base rather than the kind of a framework that we have for today. Once again, thanks for showing up. 2 weeks, feel free to join us again at 3 p.m. Or actually, I think that's our morning edition. I'm not sure when that starts. Devin will be doing the morning edition. He comes in early for our European players. I'll be on again in a month, 3 p.m. as usual. Thank you again for joining us, and goodbye.